Hi everyone, and welcome back to End of Knowledge. My name is Vishnudeva. This is the second video in a series that is first going to give an overview of Vedanta and then go more in depth in its study by studying the source texts of Vedanta themselves. So in the last video, we established that Vedanta is a means of knowledge. It's a means to know something. And what it is a means to know is your true nature. Okay, so since we're talking about your true nature, we're talking about you, yourself. So we can call this knowledge self-knowledge. And that there are 5 benefits to self-knowledge, which I'll summarize briefly here because I talked about them in the last video. There's Jignasa Nivrittihi, Ananda Praptihi, Karpanya Nivrittihi, Agata Nivrittihi, and Dakshata Praptihi. All right, Nivrittihi means to negate or get rid of something, and Praptihi means to gain something. So when we say Jignasa Nivrittihi, we're getting rid of Jignasa. That just means getting rid of your desire to know what your true nature is. Included in that, when you know that, you get rid of your curiosity to know where you come from, what you're doing here, what happens after the death of your body. It includes knowing where the world came from, what created the world. If there is a creator, what is your relationship to that creator? Are you a slave to that creator, or are you independent of that creator? So all of the perennial questions of life are answered in self-knowledge. Okay. Now, it's a different kind of knowledge because it's not something that can go away, kind of like certain forms of traditional knowledge that we're used to. And this knowledge is also the source of confidence and contentment, fulfillment. Okay, it's called Ananda Praptihi, gaining bliss, but this bliss is not a particular feeling of joy necessarily. It's just the confidence, it's fulfillment. And that is something that's based on this self-knowledge. Self-knowledge is not something that can go away. It's permanent. So that means that this confidence is not something that can go away. Okay? The fulfillment that comes from it is not something that can go away. So then the third benefit is Karpanya Nivrittihi. Okay, we're going to get rid of Karpanya, neediness. We're going to get rid of this dependence on external circumstances or even internal circumstances, states of mind, particular feelings or emotions. We're going to get rid of the dependence on those things for our sense of fulfillment, for our sense of confidence, for our sense of contentment. Why? Because the knowledge shows you that you are the ever-present source of fulfillment and contentment. So that being said, you can enjoy the things in the world, appreciating them for what they are, which is temporary. They can give you temporary happiness, but you no longer have to depend on those things because you know that you are the ever-present source of that happiness. Now, another aspect of that knowledge is the fact that you're always okay. I mean, you're always full and complete. There's nothing lacking, and that you cannot change. And I will explain the implications of these statements later on in the series, but we'll leave it at that for right now to say, okay, well, you're always all right, you can't change. So what does that mean? That means that you have agata nivrittihi. Okay, nivritti, you negate or get rid of. Agata, which is shock. Life is full of all kinds of unpleasant, difficult circumstances. And when you have that knowledge that does not go away, that you are always okay, then it is an effective shock absorber against all of those problems in life, okay? And we're talking here the condition of your mind, okay? Because your mind is tossed to and fro by all of the different things that happen in a day's time. So that knowledge buffers the mind against being overly disturbed by these things, or if the mind does get disturbed from them, it's mild, and you can bounce back from it quickly because your mind can always come back to the knowledge, hey, this is difficult, this is bad, but you know what? It doesn't really affect me and I'm okay. So having that, you come to the final fifth benefit, which is dakshata praptihi. And dakshata means efficiency. Okay, you acquire efficiency. Now, that means that with a mind that has this shock absorber of self-knowledge, okay, that mind becomes more poised, it becomes more calm and collected. And when your mind is calm and collected, then you don't, well, then all of your intelligence, all of your abilities are available there for you to use, okay? Because you can often be very capable of doing something, but when you are emotionally distressed, or if you have anxiety, or if you're just upset, then all of that intelligence, all of those skills are not there available for you to use. So like I mentioned before, it's like taking a test. You know the information, you've studied, but then your anxiety for the test that day, you get there and show up and you're so stressed that you just forget everything. All of your intelligence is not there for you to utilize. So having that mind that has the shock absorber of self-knowledge, you gain more efficiency because your mind is calm and composed and able to handle the tasks of life better, okay? So those are the 5 benefits, and I think that anybody would be interested in those. I assume you are, since you've come to this second video. So we've said that self-knowledge gives these benefits, and that Vedanta is a means to acquire self-knowledge. So let's just get right into it here and start talking about the methodology of Vedanta itself. Okay, so really we're just going to start with Vedanta 101. Okay, the two basic questions that you have to answer right off the bat. Vedanta is a teaching method that builds step to step. Okay, so it's really important that before you go to step 2, you really understand and assimilate step 1, or else you're going to have a lot of trouble with step 2, or maybe not even get it at all. Okay, so the first question then is, what is an object? And the follow-up question to that is, what do I want when I pursue objects? Okay? So the definition of an object, and this is fundamental to Vedanta, is anything that you can know or experience is an object. All right, so starting with the external world, any aspect of the external world whatsoever, okay, any part of that, whether that be a person, a place, or a thing. A mountain is an object, a tree is an object, a car is an object, another person, excuse me, is an object, okay? So anything external, and then we also can say, well, anything I can know or experience, well, that's got to also include anything internal, okay? Because we experience many things internally, all right? So that includes the entire contents of your mind, all right? Thoughts, feelings, emotions, memories, anything like that. Those are all objects, okay? This also includes your own body, okay? Because your body is something that is known to you and can be experienced by you, all right? I'll extend out a few more here, which would be to say that anything at all, internal or external, that is known to you or that you can experience is an object, all right? So this includes money, this includes food, this includes situations as well, like relationships, it includes achievements, accomplishments, any of those kind of things are all categorized under objects. So what then is the reason for pursuing these objects? Okay, because if you look at it, your whole life, from the time that you wake up to the time that you go to sleep, from the time that you're born till the day that you die, is only a pursuit of these things. In Vedanta, they loosely categorize them into 3 different categories, the pursuit of objects, okay? And that would be artha, kama, and dharma, all right? Artha is security or wealth. Kama is pleasure. And dharma is virtue, okay? Now, you may think that these categories aren't all-inclusive. If you think of something that doesn't seem to fit in those categories, it's okay. These are arbitrary distinctions, you know. So just anything at all that you go after in life, anything that you pursue, is the pursuit of objects, okay? So we've asked the question, you know, we've said, what is an object? But why do we pursue these objects, okay? So let's use something like artha, okay? We're going to say wealth. And that's something that a lot of people can understand. Even if you're not trying to get rich, people definitely seek to have money, you know, just to maintain their lives, okay? So the question is, why do I want money, okay? Do I want money because I like pieces of, you know, little pieces of paper with pictures written on them? I mean, I've got lots of paper laying all over my house that has pictures and stuff on it that I don't care anything about. Is it that I like little stacks of shiny metal with pictures and writing on it? You know, do I want the paper and the metal for the sake of themselves, you know, for the sake of the object itself? And the answer is no. I mean, I want the money for the sense of security, okay? I want to be free from my sense of insecurity, okay? So I don't want the money itself. What I want is freedom from the sense of insecurity that I think money is going to give me, okay? Or let's take kama, pleasure, for instance. Why do I want pleasure? Why do I want necessarily, why do I want to eat a tasty meal? Is it because I really care that much about the food in and of itself? And the answer is no, not really. The answer is that what I really want is freedom from the desire for the food itself. I mean, the desire, the want, is uncomfortable. Desire agitates the mind. It makes you feel limited and lacking. It points to the fact that you don't have what you want, okay? So using those two examples, we can say, all right, so then what I want from the objects is not the objects themselves. What I want is the freedom that I think that the objects are giving me. Okay, I want to be free from my sense of lack or limitation that comes with wanting these things. So then, if this pursuit of objects essentially is our whole life, and we're chasing those things under the assumption that it's going to take away this sense of limitation, it's going to give us freedom, I have to ask ourselves, is it working? Because we're spending an awful lot of time doing this, okay? The answer to that question is that, yeah, it's working, but only temporarily, okay? When we get what we want, when we get the object of our desire, whether it's money or a relationship or a certain form of entertainment for pleasure or sex, etc., does it truly remove the sense of limitation? Does it really give us freedom? Okay? Yeah, temporarily. I mean, but is that good enough? You know, I mean, is temporarily feeling that way, is it good enough? You know, the way you might say, well, wait a minute, well, hold on, back up. You're saying it works, but temporarily. Well, what do you mean by that? Well, just examine your everyday experience. Say, for instance, that you get the money that you want and you are temporarily free from the feeling of insecurity. Okay, you've gained freedom from that feeling, but does it last? And the answer is no, because the money itself may not last. Okay, temporarily you feel free of that insecurity, but what happens? Inevitably you spend the money and then you feel insecure again. Or maybe the job that you are doing to get that money, maybe that job goes away and suddenly the feeling of security goes. Okay, the freedom from insecurity is now gone. Or any number of things, you know, all of these, the money that you get is bound by time. Okay, so its result is also bound by time. It's temporary. Okay, or maybe you could say, well, all right, well, what if I kept the money? Okay, what if I kept the money and the job? All right, wouldn't it be permanent then? And the answer again is no. Okay, maybe you don't have that particular desire come up again. Okay, that particular feeling of limitation, because maybe the money situation stays good. But does it completely erase your feeling of insecurity? Again, the answer is no, because maybe then, you know, you have all this money, but then you feel insecure about the status of your relationship with your spouse or your girlfriend or boyfriend. Maybe you have the security of money, but you feel insecure about your own personal self, you know, the look of your body or the contents of your mind. Or maybe you don't have that other insecurity, but does getting rid of the insecurity of money, does that get rid of desire altogether? And the answer is no. I mean, there's many times, in fact, every time you get something that you want, you may temporarily feel free of the desire for it. You may feel free of the limitation of lacking it. But then inevitably, you end up having more desires for more things. So if what we're seeking for is freedom and freedom from limitation, then this object, the pursuit of objects, is not effective in that route, because no one is satisfied with temporary freedom. Okay? Nobody is. I mean, then the proof is that as soon as we want something, then we go and do the action to get it. Then as soon as we get what we want, eventually the feeling goes away when we want something else, or maybe we're no longer happy with what we got, and then we immediately have to start doing more actions to get rid of the new desire or the new feeling of lack or insecurity that comes up. Okay? So if that's not really working, is this freedom from insecurity? Is this freedom from limitation? Is it actually in the objects themselves? Because we're spending a lot of time trying to chase them. So can they even give what we want? We've said that, yeah, temporarily maybe, but is that freedom? Is that sense of freedom, is it even coming from the object itself, or am I mistaking it for something else? If we analyze the situation, we really find that it doesn't. And the proof of that is when you look at a particular object, okay? If the freedom was inherent in the object, if gaining or having that object, okay, if freedom was inherent in it, then it would have that effect for absolutely everyone. It's like fire, okay? Fire is hot. That is the nature of fire. Whether you are American or European, or you're Indian, whether you're white or black, whether you're a Muslim or a Christian or a Hindu, if you stick your hand in fire, it will burn you. There is no change in that. The nature of fire is to burn, to be hot. No manner of opinion or anything can ever alter that. So if we have these objects and they really are the source of freedom, then there will give freedom to everyone regardless of time, place, or preference, okay? And that is not the case with objects. You can look at something as simple as a relationship, okay? You have someone who wants a relationship and they find it with a particular person and they feel so free. They feel free of the desire for a relationship. They feel free of that limitation and they're just so happy, okay? But they happen to have a relationship with someone and they're getting this feeling of freedom and happiness from it. And this person really pisses off your friend or someone else. Okay, it's very common. You can see this, that someone is in love with and has a great relationship, someone else, it has the total opposite effect on them, and that person really bothers them. Okay, now if the freedom, if the happiness was inherent in that person, then anyone who experienced that person at any time would still get the same sense of freedom and happiness in the same way that anyone who sticks their hand in fire, because fire actually is heat itself, will get burned. But it's not the case. You have different reactions. Different people have different reactions to different people that they come in contact with. So we can say, oh, this person, it makes me feel so free, makes me so happy. Well, the happiness is not in that person itself, okay? Because if it were, then all who came in contact with that person would be happy, would feel free, but they don't. Or you could take food, for instance, okay? Say you have a big, juicy porterhouse steak, all right? And you set it on the plate of somebody who loves to eat meat, and they are just feeling so happy, feeling so good. Okay, they had a strong desire for this steak, and now they are free of that feeling. Okay, or maybe a big hamburger or a pepperoni pizza or something. You put this down in front of them, and they eat it, and they get this feeling of happiness. They feel free of the limitation of wanting that thing, right? Now, if the joy, if the happiness was in the food itself, okay, if it was in the big juicy steak, right, it would give the same feeling of freedom and happiness to anyone who sat down in front of it, okay? But what if you lay that steak down in front of someone who's a strict vegetarian? Would it be making them feel happy? Would they be free of their desire to, would they feel the freedom of their desire to have a big steak? Absolutely not. You know, they didn't want the steak in the first place. And for them, it actually has the opposite effect. This object, this steak that is giving someone else great pleasure and joy, is actually an anathema. This vegetarian wants to get it away from them as fast as they can. They don't want to have anything to do with it. You know, so if this happiness was in the object itself, it would be equal for each person. But it just isn't. And you can see this in anything around you, that various things, people have various reactions to them. Okay, so the joy itself, the freedom from limitation, that feeling, does not come from the object itself. It can't. You know, if you make an honest analysis of it. But the fact remains, you say, but I do experience that. You know, I do feel this feeling of this freedom of limitation. You know, I feel free of that. So if it's not in the object, then where could it be coming from? Okay. And this is another fundamental part of Vedanta. We've established what objects are. Okay, objects are anything that can be known to you, that can be experienced by you, including every aspect of your own mind and body. Okay, that's what an object is. But when we say that these things can be known or experienced by you, it implies that there's a you separate from these objects. Okay? The question is, how can these objects be known? And the answer is, there's only two categories in your everyday life, okay? And that is the objects and the subject that knows them. Pretty simple, okay? So we have all the objects, everything that is known or experienced, but then to say that they're known or experienced, there has to be a subject that's there to know or experience them. All right, so that is the division here that we have to start working with, is this subject-object division, okay? Now we're saying that we pursue the objects because we want this freedom from the sense of limitation. We've seen that it can't come from the objects, right? And since there's only two categories here to work with, if it's not coming from the objects, then it has to be coming from me, the subject, or you, the subject. Okay, it has to be coming from you. All right. At the beginning, said that Vedanta classifies the pursuit of objects into artha, kama, and dharma. Okay, those three pursuits, and I forgot to mention what dharma is. Dharma is the pursuit of virtue, cultivating good tendencies, avoiding the bad ones. That can take the form of religion, spiritual practice, or just helping society in general, just to make a note of that. So we have those three pursuits of objects, all of those things mentioned under dharma also being objects. We've got artha, kama, and dharma. The pursuit of objects, and we pursue those objects thinking that we're going to get freedom from the sense of limitation from them, but it's not actually coming from the objects. Since there's only the objects known and the subject that knows them, the freedom must be coming from the subject. And so the question is, maybe we don't need to be pursuing these objects for freedom. If the sense of freedom is coming from me, then perhaps I need to know something about myself. And that is the fourth pursuit that Vedanta talks about. Now, this is not the pursuit of an object. This pursuit is called moksha. Okay, and moksha literally comes from the root word that means freedom. Okay, so moksha is freedom. The key to this moksha is self-knowledge. So if we want to, instead of going through for temporary freedom, happiness, through pursuing objects, if we want to go for freedom directly, and we have seen that we are the source of freedom, then we need this self-knowledge, because we need to know something about ourselves that we do not know now. And as we said, the means to know this is Vedanta. And we've kind of covered a few of the initial steps here. The next step that we'll cover in the next video is also a crucial one. And it's the question of, if I want freedom, and it seems like this freedom is coming from me, is there an action that I can do to get myself, okay, to get the freedom that I already am? Or is it a matter of understanding? And this is what we'll cover in the next video. If you have any questions about what I talked about today, feel free to go to my website, end-of-knowledge.com. Go to the contact section and send me your question. I will try to answer it in an upcoming video. Take care, everyone.